Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Planet FPL Clash of the Correspondents. My name's James, and this week we're looking forward to the Saturday night football in game week 14. Firstly, let me introduce you to our Nottingham Forest correspondent, Mark Sutherns. How are you, Mark?
Yeah, I'm good. Frustrated after yesterday's game against Brighton, but I'm okay. Looking forward to another go next weekend.
Good stuff. And our Everton correspondent, Sean Norton's here. How are you, Sean?
I'm okay. Yeah, I'm desperately trying to find some points down the back of the couch. But yeah.
You never know. You might find some of them. And I'm still in my Tottenham gear because I'm back from White Hart Lane. We are pre-recording on Sunday night and we're all pointless this weekend. So we're all pretty happy. Mark, ordinarily I would start with you as the home team, but I think elephant in the room, we need to give the Evertonian his say first. On the points deduction, give me the Everton view, please, Sean.
Well, I suppose Everton's view would be that we're guilty. We've overspent. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Me and you've been talking for years now about we were heading into trouble. But I think to get a 10-point deduction for what equates to less than £7 million overspend over 3 years each season is like incredibly harsh.
All the anger from watching the game on Sunday at Goodison would feel like it's aimed at the Premier League, and that's understandable. But there's surely still internal anger with what's happened upstairs, right? Because if it had been put in order, you wouldn't be in this position, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there hasn't really been too much media reporting about, since the deduction come in about sort of vindicating Evertonians for the last few years. I mean, this is exactly why, we've been trying to, force change at the club because, the likes of Bill Kenwright, Denise Barrett Baxendale, and Grant Ingles, the previous finance director, along with Farhad Mashiri, they were all culpable for this. Now obviously, sadly, Bill's passed away. The other two are no longer with the football club, and Farhad's looking to sell it. But that sort of anger now, is firmly directed at the Premier League for a massive. I mean, it's the biggest deduction in Premier League history. Are we all saying that this is genuinely the worst thing that ever happened in the history of the Premier League?
No, I mean, when you put it like that, I think we'd probably all be in agreement and probably say no. My team did get a 12-point deduction, Mark, back in 1994. Sorry, Sean. We did get away with all of it in the end. I suspect that won't be the case for you, but obviously it'll go to an appeal. And I think you've got every chance of getting some of this back, I think, because there are holes, aren't there, in some of the Premier League Commission's findings, aren't there?
Yeah, definitely. The 41-page document, and believe me, I've read it front to back quite a few times. It's the language that they use, it's very contradictory. So, you can find parts of it that infer that there was a sporting advantage gained, and then there's other sections that infer that no sporting advantage has been gained, or certainly not a quantifiable sporting advantage. And of course, the very nature of profit and sustainability means it's very difficult to pick where the breach has actually occurred. What because it's a 3 year rolling period, and obviously there's the 2 years around COVID that have been lumped together and then averaged out. So it's difficult, thinking of the teams who are trying to now sue Everton because they've been found guilty. It's going to be very difficult for anybody to pick out sort of any specific area where the overspend has occurred, let alone what year it occurred in. So you read through it and you just think, well, there's so many things that just smack of an overall poor process and a sort of moving of the goalposts because the narrative was the Premier League were working with Everton because Everton were very open and transparent and trying to cooperate. And it was Everton that raised it and said, look, we think we're going to be in trouble here and we don't want to be. We want to work our way out of it. So the Premier League say, okay, well, we'll put you in special measures. We're going to approve, your transfer activity. So that was happening. And I think everyone's been aware that Everton haven't been going out and splashing the cash the squad has noticeably got worse year on year for quite some time now, and it's shown in the performances on the pitch and the final positions in the league table. Yet, we're still getting punished as if we, you just think, well, why did we bother working with the Premier League? There's talk of the maximum point deduction that they could have given us was 12 points. Well, if that was the case, we'd have been better off not working with them, just carrying on spending a load more money, and we might have actually got better players in, and then we'd be able to absorb the points deduction better than we can now. We're like you say, we've sort of diluted the squad, and we're struggling because of the fact that we really haven't spent much money in the last few seasons.
Yeah, the irony is with the spending, you're not got better. And when we look at some of the others towards the top of the table, we could say, yeah, the spending has given them an advantage. You haven't been better off for that spending. But I get that rules have got to be in place. You must have been expecting some form of punishment. What were you expecting?
Well, the logical thing for me was that it would be a transfer embargo. I mean, I remember it happened with Birmingham, and they had a transfer embargo put in place, and then they broke the transfer embargo, which I'm not even sure how you do that, because how do you sign players if you're prohibited from signing them? But they did, and then they got a points deduction. And I think the club have got to be given the opportunity to go, well, okay, because you've got to breach it, haven't you? We come close to breaching it, but we didn't breach it, and then we have. It's known that we've breached it, but surely you've got to give, there's got to be something to give them an opportunity to correct the ship, put it right. And so I thought you'd probably get a ban on incoming transfers. You'd only be able to sell players, and then it would be like a suspended points deduction. So if the next financial year, if we're still over, then a points deduction comes in. But even then, I never would imagine, if 9 points is the deduction you get for going into administration, how on earth can you get deducted more for breaching PSR? I get people, the Premier League will say, well, we want this to be taken seriously, but that to me is contradictory, because it doesn't stipulate. They've never stipulated what the punishment is going to be. You get a straight red card for violent conduct. It's a free match ban, isn't it? Everyone knows what it is. If PSR is so important, and it's such a big breach, if you spend more than 105 million, then why is there nothing wrote down to say what the punishment is? And then they compound it by referring Everton to an independent commission, and then just sort of coming up with a scale that they want the commission to apply, just because they've referred Everton now. So it's like, how can you come up with a scale after referring them? And then the commission said that they didn't use it.
Yeah.
But the 10 points works out perfectly to the scale that the Premier League, wanted them to use.
Yeah.
And there was no justification whatsoever in the report as to where the 10 points comes from. So I think that will be the basis, or the main basis, of the appeal, because I think they've got themselves into a bit of a sticky situation there, because it's going to be difficult for them now to retrospectively explain how they've come up with 10 points.
Mark, what was your reaction as I was going to say neutral, but I guess you kind of are involved, right? Everton would have been in and around the same position as you in the league without the point deduction at the moment. Mm-hmm. What's your reaction as a Forest fan, first and foremost?
Well, I mean, I was shocked at the scale of it, for sure. And it does beg the question, if it had been a top six side, would it have been the same? First thing I thought was, are we going that way as well? I mean, we've hardly been shy when it comes to the transfer market last couple of seasons. And I know the Brennan sale probably had a lot to do with the FFP situation. Yeah, I mean, I look at it and think, I didn't think Everton would be in the bottom three anyway. So I don't look at it and think, well, they were going anyway. I guess I look at it and think that's Everton have got enough to fight their way out of it, given that I do still think there's a gap between the promoted sides and the likes of us and Everton. I think Everton will still be all right, but in the short term, I thought, well, we're playing Everton in a couple of weeks. I don't like that, because they're going to come now with that that fighting spirit that they've shown all anyway, but especially away from home this season, it's going to be amplified now, and it's going to be a very difficult game. So my immediate reaction was, Everton are okay. I think they'll get themselves out of it anyway. And I'm not looking forward to the City Ground encounter now, because I think they're going to come with an even more determination to get 3 points off us, which I think is entirely possible.
You take any solace in that, Sean? I know it's tough to stomach at the moment, but the fact that basically in any other year you would have been in huge trouble, and you're obviously in trouble now anyway. You've got a chance though, haven't you? If I said this on one of the pods we did last week, that if we'd have heard in pre-season, you'd have had the deduction, we'd have all gone, oh, they're dead already. It doesn't feel that way now.
Well, I mean, I sort of I disagree. I keep hearing people, sort of saying that, well, it's okay because they're still going to stay up. I think I'd probably say the same thing if if it wasn't my club and I didn't sort of know the ins and outs as well as I do. I think I'd probably look at it and be saying the same thing, because we've been playing quite well recently and we were picking up points. But there's not much room. There's not much margin for error. We haven't got a big squad. When I look at Forest, Mark knows them far better than I do, but I see like all the signings that they've made. When I watch them, or when they're missing few players, they seem to be able to cope with those those missing players better than we can. I think we've got a big drop off when, if we lose, like the Doucouré's massive for us, obviously Calvert-Lewin's massive for us, Branthwaite's massive for us. But, kind of proved, the last couple of games, when Onana's not there, gone, I can't quite, perform at the same level. And I think all it takes is the games come thick and fast in December. We all know, from fantasy football, there's going to be a lot of game weeks coming up, and I think we'll struggle with the schedule. And there's a 5-point gap now, isn't there? And that's going to psychologically, play on the minds of the players and in these games. So as much as there's an increased fighting spirit and determination that sort of Mark, is sort of fearful of for the game next week. At the same time, we're not very good when we go a goal behind under Sean Dyche, and the sort of stats back that up. And I think there was a little bit of it today once Manchester United went 2-0 up. It was evident in the crowd, the last sort of 10 minutes. It emptied quite rapidly, the stadium. And so I do think that those 10 points, if the appeal doesn't come in, in the next few weeks, or it doesn't massively, reduce the 10 points, because I do think we'll potentially only get 1 or 2 back. I think it's going to be a real struggle now.
And no, of course it is. Of course it is. Listen, unfortunately, at the moment, you're on 4 points, and I agree with you. I think there's every chance you might get a point or 2 back. Is probably, I think, probably the best you're looking at. But either way, there's no doubt you're in trouble. I think the point that we're making is, it wouldn't be you're in trouble, it'd be you're gone in most other seasons. Look at the points you've stayed up in the last few seasons, right? The 10 would have taken you over the edge. That's what we're saying. You've still got a chance. No one's saying, I think Everton will be safe by January. No, unfortunately, Luton's win yesterday means there's a gap, right? And it needs chasing. And the concern for you is, when I look at your home games, basically up till you play Palace in game week 25, and I know your home record has been a problem, Newcastle, Chelsea, Manchester City, Villa, Tottenham is your next 5 home games. That's rough, mate. There's a collection of 5 home games together. The flip of that, of course, is you go to Forest, you go to Burnley. There's the reverse with Tottenham, Wolves, Fulham. There's some winnable away games. And actually, ironically, it's where most of your points have been, Sean, right?
Yeah. The whole way of playing under Dyche seems to be tailored for playing away.
Why is that?
Well, he just seems to not be that interested in obviously keeping possession of the ball, and it's more about sort of attacking as quickly, getting them up the pitch as quickly as we can. And we haven't got the creative players to break teams down. And when teams get players behind the ball, that's where we tend to struggle. So I think he's just trying to get those transitions, increase the speed of them, and create some like similar to Brighton away was the perfect example of, I think, how he's trying to get us to play. And it's just geared for playing away from home, isn't it?
So, Mark, are we expecting a bar of soap at the City Ground on Saturday? Like, no one wants it, or?
He's describing our Forest setup, right? That's exactly it. I think we struggle.
You're trying to change, right? And
yeah, that's it. Yeah,
has this been part of the problem?
yeah. I think I said it last time I was on. That coincided with when the window closed and Sangare arrived and Dominguez arrived, and there was a growing faction amongst Forest supporters to go, right, we've got the players now, Cooper, play a more expansive, attractive style of football. And I did say I feared that he would feel that pressure and change from the back three or the wing back system, which was very pragmatic but solid, and the platform we built upon, and we were nicking points, and we did enough obviously in the first season to stay up like that. It was tight, it wasn't great, it was too tight, I guess, but I took it to be safe with one game to spare. But now we're playing the kind of football where we are more open. We've got good players, but we're giving up opportunities, and we're in a league where the teams will take those opportunities. And Brighton were ruthless with us at the weekend. I mean, it's not something you really think about as Brighton. There's this kind of narrative that they miss their chances. They play good football, don't create a lot, and then they haven't got anyone to take their chances. Well, in Ferguson, they've got that player now, and Pedro played very well when he came on. Both their goals they took really well. The penalty, bit soft, but then we got one back. But Brighton just played around us, played through us. We were missing Sangare, so he was pivotal, I think, in the decision to move to a back four, and he wasn't playing yesterday. And still, Cooper thought, no, I'm going to persevere with the back four, even though the key figure that was, I think, behind that decision to switch wasn't on the pitch, and it showed. I think we should have played a back three, and I think we should play a back three against Everton. I feel much more secure in getting something from the game if we went into next week with Niakate, Bolly in the middle, and Murillo on the left with wing backs. I think we would probably get a point and may even win the game. But if we go in with a back four and Everton play the way they have been away from home, we could lose that. And that's the real fear for me.
Interesting you mentioned Brighton and the narrative, because in their last away game, which was Everton's last home game before the United game, they created next to nothing against you, Sean.
Yeah, we defended really, really well that game.
Is that partly because you got the early goal?
Yeah.
But then so did you, Mark, this weekend. So
yeah, but we're not set up to defend. We're set up to try and play through, and we're not as good as Brighton. It's simple as that. We were trying to go toe to toe with a team that are far better at playing good football than us, because we've only just started going that way, whereas Brighton have had season upon season with manager upon manager playing in that way. Cooper's beginning to transition to a style there. We want the ball and we play good passes. We switch play. We build progressively. And we will probably try that against Everton. And from what Sean's saying, that's going to play right into their hands, basically.
Is it not a case, though, Mark, that because of Everton's point deduction and the three teams that have come up and the difficulty they're finding, does it not feel like if you're going to transition, this is a really good time to try and do it?
Yeah.
Like none of us are sitting here now thinking you're going to be in trouble, despite the fact, since you tried to change your style and won at Chelsea in game week 4, you've won one game. And the game you won was against Villa, which was a little bit more like what we saw for the majority of last season with Forest.
Yeah, and I was infused by the Villa result. I thought, okay, it's going to work. And maybe with Sangare yesterday, we would have got something. But he's our record signing. He's key. He's going to be a key, right? And while he hasn't stood out, I think he's done things that he's one of those players when he's not there, you miss him, right? You can see what he adds. I think with time and another window, it's going to be okay, but we're not there yet. And I think we're opening ourselves up to teams and teams that play in a style that we used to, which is like minimum possession and transition quickly, which is what Sean just described. They will have some joy against us. So I'm worried. I'm worried going into Saturday now, because I think that Everton are going to be set up to exploit what currently is now a weakness for us, which is that we're not as good with the ball. We don't take care of the ball as well as a team like Brighton. We just don't. Not many teams do. And you need to be that's another level. That's probably 2 or 3 more windows before we're at that level. My concern as a Forest fan is I want to get to those 2 or 3 windows as a Premier League team. So I'd rather have persevered with the more pragmatic style, see this season through, have another summer where we could add to the squad and then think about it. Whereas I think we've just gone that little bit early and we're running the risk of getting dragged in. I think we'll be okay. I think you're right, but it still means we're going to be we're going to have another season like the last one, I think, for very different reasons.
But in terms of trying to change the style, there's no panic. That's what I mean. You're not sitting there thinking, well, if we keep losing, then, and obviously, listen, if you keep losing, then sure. But you're picking up enough points across the board that you can probably continue to try this. That's how it feels on the outside.
Well, I think if we lose to Everton and we don't get anything at Fulham, we won't change our style. We'll change our manager.
That big.
I think that my read of this situation is that when Sangare came in, when we got the players that we did, the change in formation, the change in style, there must have been a pressure to do that. Because I think, for me personally, it came too early. I would have liked us to have seen a more gradual progression towards that. We changed immediately like that for the Burnley game, and we struggled to get a point in that game. And ever since then, I think, yes, the Villa game was good. That was an example of that, but Villa didn't turn up that day, to be honest. I don't want to read too much into that in terms of our performance versus theirs. I think it's a bit 50-50. I think that the more progressive style, there's some kind of pressure to play that, I think. And I think that we know Marinakis is not a patient owner. And I do worry that if we lose both the next two, there's going to be real pressure.
You say that. I mean, in fairness, a lot of us on the outside thought twice, two different occasions last year that City's finished Cooper, and they stuck with him, right? Yeah, but even at the end of the season, he spoke about like his pride in the fact that they stuck with Cooper.
But what I saw on Saturday was a team that was incredibly well coached and versed in the way of playing. They knew exactly how to play like that. We looked like a team that was transitioning to a new style. We weren't anywhere near ready yet. And so I think Marinakis will look at it and go, it's about the coaching now. I've got the players on the pitch. The coaching's not strong enough, or it's not getting instilled in those players quick enough. That's my fear. It's not going to be out of, we're going to get relegated. It's going to be, it's not happening quick enough. The transition to a more expansive style of play that's going to get us in the top 10, that's going to get us Europa League, it's not happening quick enough. And I think I'm quite happy to be patient. I want Cooper to stay, and let's give him another couple of seasons. But I'm not Marinakis, and we know how impatient he is.
And I know you've always been a big supporter of keeping Cooper on board, even when it was looking really dark at certain points last year. What's the vibe amongst the general Forest fans? Would most still stick with him?
Yeah, I mean, I surround myself with people who think the same way I do, who are patient and feel that we'll happily take another couple of seasons in the Premier League before we push on to the top 10, which is what the overall aim is. Of course, I buy into that. I want that. I don't want to risk reaching for it overnight and putting ourselves in a relegation battle. And I think Cooper's brought so much to the club. He deserves time, and he deserves that patience. And he didn't need another couple of windows, I think. I don't think he just, give him Sangare, give him Dominguez and a few other players like Hudson-Odoi, he's a good player. But let's not forget we lost Brennan. I think it was a big ask to kind of put pressure on him to change our style overnight. But I can only deduce there was some pressure from somewhere to do that.
Sure. Does that surprise you hearing that Cooper might be under pressure?
Yeah, it does, to be honest. I thought, credit to Forest, because it did look early on last season like he was going to go, didn't it? And I thought, they were very brave to stick with him, and it worked out. I mean, Forest's home record, if I'm not mistaken, is pretty outstanding. I saw the other day that I know they obviously lost it this weekend, but before then, very, very rarely the Forest lose at home. But obviously the problem is away from home, similar to how Everton have been in recent seasons. They struggle to get the victories. So like Mark's talking about, investments into the squad, and these owners, they want to see an immediate sort of upturn in performances, don't they, as well as results. And we've seen it with Moshiri. You get an owner that's got a itchy trigger finger. I've just seen there. I think Forest have only won 1 in like 9. So if we did manage to avoid defeat and then they don't win at Fulham, would they be massively surprised if it then saw Steve Cooper's got the sack? When you look at the overall context, I don't think most fans would be.
That's interesting. I'd take your manager's not under any pressure during all this, Sean. No, most of us on the outside would think he's the right man to get you through this.
Yeah, he's the only sort of stable thing at the football club, and You know, yeah, I think it's like last on the list of problems at the club at the minute is Sean Dyche.
I get the vibe he pisses you off sometimes, though.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, yeah.
Go on.
He does. He does. Just, I don't know. Just find like, I mean, we know we haven't got a big squad full of lots of quality, but I mean, today was a case in point. Ashley Young gets booked like as he normally does after 20 minutes. Just take him off. Take him off at half time. You got Patterson and Coleman on the bench, but no, he doesn't, does he? And then who gives the penalty away? Ashley Young, he seems to have a fixation on underperforming players, and it's Young at the minute. It was Michael Keane last season, and I don't know. It just doesn't endear him to people like myself that have seen much better Everton teams than what we're currently watching.
Who is your best right back? Could Coleman come back in against Forest then?
Oh yeah, Seamus. I tweeted this before. I can't believe it's 2024 nearly, and I'm desperate to see Seamus Coleman play. Says it all.
Young, unfortunately, as soon as he gets booked, I mean, we obviously saw him get sent off at Anfield, but as soon as he gets booked, you think that vibe. You think, I don't know if he can hold himself. And Patterson, unfortunately, looks like the complete opposite. Whereas at least Young has the experience, Patterson does look really inexperienced. So as Coleman wasn't used today, I would have thought he wouldn't start at Forest. Mark, is Anthony Elanga about to make that position his own on that side of the pitch?
Well, it's interesting because Hudson-Odoi came off the bench and he looked very good. I think he's got to start. I think if we're going to play more expansive against Everton and say, well, we're going to try and play football, we're going to go be front foot, you play both of them. You play Elanga and you play Hudson-Odoi. And, what you're describing there is Everton have got some issues at fullback. We can cause some problems out wide, I think.
Elanga's obviously scored in the last two.
Yeah,
5.0. He's been getting a little bit of love.
Yeah, he has. But for me, Hudson-Odoi is a far more rounded player. Elanga's end product is erratic. He brings pace, obviously. He can finish. I mean, he's taken his goals well. But it only took 10 minutes of Hudson-Odoi to see that what he does, he takes the pressure off Gibbs-White because Hudson-Odoi can pick a pass. He's got vision. He does some things well that are... He takes risks with the ball, and 50% of the time it comes off. And normally that's all on Gibbs-White. It's like, this move's going to break down and come to nothing unless the ball ends up at Gibbs-White's feet. When Hudson-Odoi's on the pitch, we've got a couple of players who can do it. Elanga's not that. Elanga is like, get him running at the fullback, get him behind the defence, then we see what he can do. He does stretch the play and he allows us, to... Toffee's quite effective with him because we've seen a few times him Elanga stretching play, cutting it back, Toffee delivering. That'll be the formula with Wood in the side. But I like Hudson-Odoi a lot. I think he's got to start against Everton. So it'd be interesting to see what he does with Gibbs-White because Gibbs-White at the weekend he brought Hudson-Odoi on, he played Gibbs-White in the 10 and he lost Dominguez and Danilo. So I wonder if he'll go with that with Sengawa and Mangala behind. I hope he does because if we're going to be front foot, let's go for it.
If you wanted to invest in one of them Forest, to say midfield three, Gibbs-White, Elanga, Hudson-Odoi, what would you say to people? Because I'd say why as well, Mark. Obviously, a lot of people wildcard in 19. I've got you top of my FDR in the next 5.
Yeah,
so people are looking at you.
It's got to be Gibbs-White if he's going to play central. If he's going to play where he ended up last 20, and he was brilliant. He was brilliant for us again. His work rate, his tenacity, his desire. He's our best player. But it doesn't always come off for him, and we've just got to show patience when it does. He makes some bad decisions sometimes, gives the ball away sometimes, but his effort and talent is undoubted. I want to get him more on the ball where he can hurt players. I mean, hurt teams. I mean, but teams will come to the City Ground, and he's the player they're going to fear. So we've got to get him on the ball, and so hopefully we get him playing central against Everton.
It feels like how you've been playing has not been suitable to him on a whole.
No, not getting the ball enough to him in areas he can affect the play.
But if you move him into a 10 position, are you not just going even more offensive than what you have been?
Yeah, but then we've got to go, well, we're better than this team. We're going to score more goals than them. If that's the attitude, let's do it. Let's not do it in half measures. Because I think if we don't do that, we'll lose the game to Everton.
The Planet FPL fourth wheel, Clayton Fernandez, has had Gibbs-White for months. And he messaged me Saturday night about, oh, I've got a return. Well, obviously, he hasn't been messaging me much for the last couple of months because I keep digging him out. But he's got to stick with him now, hasn't he? He's got to this point.
Yeah, and I think it could be Hudson-Odoi coming back. Either we will drop Chris Wood and Gibbs-White will play down the middle, which is highly possible, or we'll go for it and play Gibbs-White as a 10 with Sengawi and Mangala behind. It'll be one of those two, I think.
So Chris Wood, 4.9 forward. He's also going to get a little bit of attention, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, I just think, though, the Hudson-Odoi return is a complication I didn't expect. We thought he was some weeks away.
Well, that's because Cooper told us that it was a few
yeah,
weeks
I
away.
know.
That's what your manager does, Mark. Do him and Eddie Howe have each other on speed dial? Do you know? Or...
It's not good, is it, from an FPL perspective? I mean, I saw this in the Championship. Yeah, I think Wood will probably start against Everton, and Cooper will probably be cautious and play Gibbs-White on one flank and Elanga or Hudson-Odoi on the other. He'll probably start with Elanga again and bring Hudson-Odoi on. I hope he doesn't. I hope he goes for it from the start.
I mean, when you look at the 5 fixtures for him, if we thought he was going to play the 5 games, Everton at home, Forest away, Wolves away, Tottenham at home, Bournemouth at home, wild card off it, when you turn into like Newcastle away, United, Brentford, Arsenal. So you can get on it. It's particularly one for the wild cards, and you can get off and it'll facilitate things. So I'll give you an example, Mark. I'm a non-Mo Salah owner at the moment. I can go Son to Salah, and if I sell Wally Watkins, I got 4.9. Would you do that?
You go Watkins to Solanke or something, would you? And
no, I'd say it would be Son to Salah.
Oh, to Wood.
Watkins to Wood. And with the caveat that I wouldn't have to play him either.
Yeah.
I could pick and choose.
He's got the Bournemouth game 18, hasn't he? I think I'd want to see the Everton game and see what happens. See what Hudson-Odoi changes. Wood did okay on Saturday, and he was basically sacrificed in the second half because we didn't have a good first half. I think had he stayed on when Hudson-Odoi came on, it would have been quite handy. But Origi did all right when he came on. I think Wood will start the Everton game, but if he's not effective and he draws a blank, then I think Gibbs-White down the middle is not far away.
Surely for Wood and Origi, we think what we're doing here, the talisman Awoniyi's out for months. Let's compete with each other. Like, to be honest, with Wood, I would already use the caveat and say I don't think he's a certain starter for a number of weeks because you've got Origi there. You're saying Gibbs-White could play there as well. Surely the idea would be to play one of the two, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but I think away from home, he might try playing Gibbs-White down the middle and the 2 wide players around him, and then Gibbs-White dropping back. Bit like the under-21s with Palmer and Gordon, the role he played there. I wouldn't be surprised if Cooper does that at Fulham.
Probably needs another player to do it with him, though. With Gibbs-White. I mean, the 2 you referenced there obviously did it together. I'd certainly know Andy Gordon was playing it with another. I know Palmer was always in that role for the under-21s. I could see Gibbs-White was playing it with Gordon, wasn't he? Sorry. So, yeah. But he's playing it with another. They were taking it in turns to drop shots rather than him just do it on his own as a false 9, if you will.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think that Wood will start the Everton game, but then we go to Fulham. I wouldn't be surprised if we change it up for that. We go with a false 9 there.
I wouldn't need to start him, no, Mark.
No, so he's good. Yeah, I mean, and Bournemouth at home is probably a game he will start in 18. So, yeah, I still think it's a good bet. I think he can. He was unfortunate at the weekend. We didn't play well in the half he got. And he has looked a lot better this season. And also we've looked more likely to create for him with wingers in the side and Toffolo in the side at fullback. So I think he'll get some joy. But he's probably only got the Everton game before we change it up, I think.
Yeah. Sean, any Everton FPL players at the moment?
No, the fixtures are too
shit
crap, aren't
they? Yeah.
Sadly.
They are, but Dom's fit. At least he's getting minutes in the bag. 5.8 certainly falls into line if you're looking for a forward at around about that price, surely. I mean, I'd rather have Calvert-Lewin in my team than Wood, in all honesty, even with your more difficult fixtures.
Yeah. I mean, I had a little look at maybe bringing Dom into mine, but you're not going to get that. We're struggling to get service to him, to get him shooting at goal. He's more sort of involved in the build up, holding the ball up, laying it off, flicking it on. So I don't think he's a FPL option. Certainly not one that I'd be touting for people
Okay.
to get onto.
What about a comparison, say, to Corey Harrison at 5.5? Because I think there was a little bit of investment in the two a couple of weeks ago from a minority, admittedly. Do you have a preference between the two? Because I'd said still Decore at that point, just because of his position and how close he's getting to Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah, I think Harrison's a more rounded footballer than Decore, but Duke's just he knows where to be and when to be there, doesn't he? He has that great habit of popping up in the right place at the right time, and he's such a strange footballer because his passing generally is dreadful, but every now and then he picks out some sublime passes. The one at Crystal Palace did he play through to
But yeah, for
Ghana?
kind of
Oh, it was
games winning goal,
just
yeah.
yeah, and he's done it a few times this season. He just has it in his in his locker to be able to pick out a peach of a pass, but generally it's passing garbage. But he'd be the one. I think he would be the one if I was gonna punt on an attacking player. He'd be the one.
Yours is the opposite, though, in the sense that in 18, for say 19 wildcards, obviously you go to Tottenham in 18, which on paper is a tough fixture. But for the offensive guys, I mean, we even once Romero's back, I promise you, we'll still give every team in this league a chance in every single game.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be the worst ones necessarily to hang on to. If you were on, would you advise selling or is it a keep?
I think I just think there's better options around that sort of price. I mean, Douglas Luiz keeps ticking over, doesn't he? Really
It
nicely.
does, in fairness.
Despite
Yeah.
despite Andy convinced that it was going to dry up.
Thanks for reminding me. Cheers,
Points.
mate. Yeah. We've survived most of this podcast without digging me out. Cheers, mate. Should have got 12 points, Sean. Defensively, though, you've got a gem, though. Seriously, Jared Branthwaite, I need a left-footed centre-back, Sean, and you need money to comply with FFP. Can we talk?
No. Now, he is in. I do have Jared Branthwaite. I've got him in my. I actually played him today. I was this weekend. I was a bit desperate for defensive cover, because I've got Dan Burn and Simicast. Who didn't fancy away at City, so I played Jared. I was hoping we were going to grind out a 1-0 win or something like that. But the boy's good. I mean, I did say pre-season. I did say that even if Keane started, it wouldn't be long until Branthwaite got in, and then he'd stay in. He is the lad's a class act.
He must be kicking himself, Dyche, that he didn't just go with him in game one.
Yeah.
Because of the results you had early on.
Yeah. This is the thing about like what you sort of irks me a little bit about Dyche, because he does have his his favourites that he likes to stick with no matter what, and I think it was pretty clear there was no good reason to start Michael Keane. But in all in his defence, Branthwaite did have an injury during pre-season that he only just sort of got over towards the back end of it, so maybe it was more to do with that.
Any love for Mikalenko? Scored in the previous two and hit the bar.
Yeah, he hit the bar
against
today.
United as well. Any love for him at 4.4? Seems to be a little bit of an output increase from him.
Yeah, again, if the fixtures are a bit better, then unbelievably, yeah, I would. He seems to have. He's the one that out of the two fullbacks, there just seems to be a case of as soon as this fast transitioning that I was talking of earlier, it's as soon as we get the ball, it's almost like he's got license to just bomb on. And if he can get in the box quicker than Dwight McNeil, and McNeil, who isn't quick anyway, but McNeil then fills in the left back. So he's got license to just run past McNeil without having to worry about defensive responsibility. And whilst he doesn't look the most cultured of fullbacks, he seems to make it work. That is a cracking. The shot that at the crossbar was a peach.
Would there be any chance, in your opinion, once Coleman's reintegrated, and if he is, that Young moved back to left back?
No.
Team?
No. Mikalenko, he'll stay left back.
Okay. If you were going to buy one, you pay the extra for Mikalenko, or just go Branthwaite?
Yeah, I go Mikalenko, yeah.
Okay. Mark, I'm getting regular questions on the weekly now because of this run. Which one's the best Forest defensive one? And you know what they all want to know with that, don't you? Which one's going to play every game?
Yeah, Toffolo's the obvious choice if he was certain to play because he's got the delivery and he was on some set plays at the weekend for the first time, so he was taking some corners. But if Hudson-Odoi starts, then he'll get the majority of those. He'll probably get them back off Toffolo. And he's not a certain starter because Aurier can always come in at right back and Aina switch over. Murillo is a special player, though. I mean, just like Everton have got Branthwaite again at the weekend, he's like, his range of passing is crazy. There's no way we're going to hold on to him. He'll be gone in the summer because I think that he'll show enough over the rest of the season where a big side will come in for him. He's just ridiculous on the ball and his passing is just different level. So he's a bit, if you look at the role that Anderson plays for Crystal Palace, those diagonal balls, it's like that +1 really. His range of passing is like every time we're trying to build from the back, we just get the ball to Murillo and let him pick a pass, and he can spray it all over the place. So I love him because he's going to get a couple of returns in this run, I think, just from those long balls. So I think I would probably go for him on the basis that Toffolo's probably not nailed on.
Now that he's got, because there was a little bit of concern that he might have picked up an issue at West Ham. Now that we know he's played again, I agree with you. He's definitely playing. How quick is he, by the way?
He's quick enough. It's deceptive because he's quite a unit, isn't he? And he's not.
He doesn't look like he should be.
Yeah, but you saw the tackle on João Pedro at the weekend where he kind of didn't go full tilt. He just like had that burst and got the tackle. Yeah. So he's not getting caught. So he's an impressive defender, but he's just like ball playing centre backs. I mean, Branthwaite is one. Branthwaite's got a great left foot and he looks comfortable on the ball. Murillo, similar, very obviously young, raw, but incredible on the ball. So, you know, for that, those qualities are much sought after. I just can't see him staying. If we have him next season, I'll be very surprised.
I'll add him to the list, Mark, but I reckon we'll go to Everton because we know we can get 20 million discounts, don't we, Sean?
Yeah, we ain't selling Murillo cheap, but you might be lucky with Branthwaite. Yeah.
That was the worst thing in the report, mate. Oh, we valued Richarlison at 80 million. They're on drugs, mate.
There was lots of stuff in that report that was that was laughable. I mean, that was probably my second biggest lol when I read the report. But the biggest was when Benitez took over from Ancelotti, and we signed basically no one. They budgeted to finish sixth.
Yeah, we laughed about this last week as well. I don't know how that idea came about when Tottenham and Arsenal would finish 7th and 8th the year before, and you still finished below both of them, and West Ham and Leicester were up there. So I know where budgeting for 6 had come from. No, but in seriousness, Mark, he does look a very good player. Niakati's obviously got the favouritism over Bolly at the moment. I'd said to a few people Niakati at the weekend I thought was pretty safe to go to if people wanted to because of the little doubts about Murillo. But a lot of the feedback I was getting was that people wanted to go for Aina. That feels a bit dangerous, though. Would that be fair?
A little bit, because Aurier could come in, but I think Aina's probably more secure than Toffolo. I think he either plays right or left. Because we've got Nico Williams as an option as well. I mean, it's that Fulham game, isn't it? When we go there in 15, it's midweek and we could see some rotation. Much depends on how the Everton game goes. If we manage to get 3 points, then I think we might rotate a little bit at fullback for the Fulham game. And as I said, we might even go false 9 and rest Wood for that game as well. But if we lose against Everton or only get a point, we'll probably go full strength at Fulham as well and try and get a result, which would be a point really at the Cottage. So much depends on that on Saturday's games.
You have got other players that we forget that can play in the fullback roles though, right? Williams, Montiel, Nuno Tavares is fit again, I think.
Yeah, we've got too many. I mean, we've got so many fullbacks. I really thought we were going to play 3 at the back with wing backs, hence the amount of fullbacks we would need to rotate that, because when you're playing wing backs, you need to get minutes in the legs and rotate during games with the 5 subs. But now we're playing a back 4. We've just got too much there. We just, I don't. Some people have got to go in January, haven't they? Otherwise, it looks a bit silly.
The other curveball in terms of investing in Forest assets, maybe for the centre backs. I don't think for Murillo, maybe for Niakate. Felipe's close, isn't he?
He is. I think Felipe's being saved for the AFCON situation when Niakate goes. So we're going to see Felipe in until then.
All right, cool. Gents, pleasure. Thank you both so much. As ever, we will end with a correct score prediction. Mark, you're the home team. Fire away.
I'm going to go 2-2.
Sure.
I was thinking exactly the same thing. 2-2.
What's the score last year? Brennan Johnson scored twice, Mark.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, it was a good game, actually. Well, and one thing, we got caught on a set piece. Decore scored, didn't he, Sean? Do you remember? And Tarkovsky pulled off and headed it back across, and Decore just, it flicked it in. It's set pieces. We look terrible at set pieces at West Ham, so I really worry about that. And I really worry that we're going to have a lot of the ball and play into Everton's hands. So I think it's going to be a good game. I think Everton have looked good away from home and have posed problems. And I think that we'll probably play an attacking team. So I think it'll be an open game. It's on telly as well, isn't it? And then we got Raptors event afterwards in Nottingham. And it's my birthday the next day. So I'll take a point.
Nice. Plug that. Where's Raptors event? Saturday night?
It's oh God, I've got to bring the venue up. You need to give me a few minutes. I can't remember the.
All right, you do that, and I'll remind you as well. Did Brennan Johnson not score at Goodison Park last year as well?
He did.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we gave away a silly goal.
While you're looking for that venue, can you give me a bit more encouragement on Brennan Johnson and tell me that he's not going to be a waste of money like Richarlison?
No, yeah, I thought he looks all right today. Did you not think?
I think he is blowing mad heavy an hour in. His fitness levels are so far off expectation.
Yeah, that's possible.
That's my concern. Now, obviously, he's had injury problems and that's not helped. And you're obviously going into a very different style of football from what you've been accustomed to. But fitness-wise, he looks miles off it late in games.
He did for us.
Rapid, though. My God, he's quick.
He did for us. Last 20 minutes, he used to fade big time. We took him off with 10, 15 to go in a lot of games where we didn't need his finishing. I think you'll see that. And he has parts in games where he just drifts away. Like he goes 20 minutes without, you don't even notice him. So you've got to be patient with him, but he's got end product. The Blind Rabbit, it's at NG1 2GB, 12 o'clock start. I'll be there after the game, so I'll be there late. But
good stuff. Well, there was an 8 o'clock game as well this weekend, isn't there? Newcastle and Manchester United this weekend as well. Enjoy if you're going to that in Nottingham. I'll be on Sunday trying to find my way to Manchester for my next beating. Sean, anything you want to plug before you go?
No, just if you want to follow my rants about Everton, Spirit_Blues on X.
If people want a bit of further reading on the Everton version of what's happening with the points deduction, are there any good Twitter accounts that are worth a follow?
Yes. There's the Ask and Mikey Gow. They're both excellent. There's plenty of stuff on both of their feeds on X. All sorts of information that isn't readily available to people through the likes of Sky Sports, etc.
Good stuff. Yeah, no, worth a look. Both good accounts, actually. Mark, you do this thing, don't you?
Yeah, just Black Box. Yeah, come along and watch some bits on Black Box. We're doing more this season. I'm doing these walkabout videos. I don't know if you've seen any of these, James, but I did a bit.
I watched the one after you came to our live event, mate. Yeah, it's cracking, actually. Good format. Yeah,
I'm enjoying that. So yeah, just come and see what we're up to on Black Box. That's fine. Just if you want to subscribe, you can. But don't worry if not. And I just want to say best of luck, Sean, for the rest of the season after 10 points. And obviously that should only start after Saturday, though. So
yeah. Thank you.
You don't wish him luck back, though, will you? He needs every help he can get.
That's all right.
I'll take it Wednesday night, Mark, for Black Box. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be on Wednesday, and I'll probably do a Friday show with Andy.
Is this regular Friday now?
Yeah. I like the late tackle. It's kind of like I normally Friday night is when I do my transfers, and I go into the data a bit before the Saturday deadline. So I thought, well, let's just do a little stream and keep it informal, a bit more relaxed, and I'm really enjoying them.
Good stuff. Thank you both so much. I suppose I better go for 2-2. Mark, Sean, FF Scout _Mark and Spirit_Blues. Got another COTC for you this Thursday as well. West Ham versus Crystal Palace with Chris Stone and Rory McLaughlin-Dowd. Sean will be back with me. Sean, I wish it was Sean rather than Suj, will be back with me for the Sky Fantasy Football Podcast tomorrow. Cheers, gents. Good luck this weekend. Cue music, please. Man sharp.